Jimmy Kimmel Live is back on ABC, but broadcast network owners Sinclair and Nexstar have both refused to air the show on their ABC affiliate networks. The boycott sparking analysis that Disney could maybe divest from its linear TV business. Laura Martin from Needham, for example, argued that Disney should shut down ABC entirely. Joining me now with an investor playbook for media stocks is Rich Greenfield, LightShed Partners partner and media and technology analyst. There is a lot to weigh as a result of this story and everything going on in media right now. So I really appreciate you being here, Rich. Let's talk about Kimmel first. You have the decision of Nexstar and Sinclair. On the flip side, you have Kimmel's clips doing huge numbers on the likes of YouTube, right? What do you think? I guess first, let's start with the implications of the whole Kimmel situation for the media landscape and what media companies now need to consider for the content that they're running.
Well, first of all, it's absurd for Disney to shut down ESPN and ABC. They could spin these assets off, and we've been arguing for quite some time that Disney does not need, if you think about what Disney does in terms of theme parks and consumer products and movie studios and Disney Plus, they don't need ESPN and ABC. There's no synergy between these assets. And if anything, as you're pointing out, Julie, it's actually more harm than good, right? Because it puts you into difficult situations, political situations, because ABC, its station groups, and all of its affiliate station groups are, overseen by the FCC. And there is this public interest mandate that they need to follow. And so the reality is, my fear is that this actually backfires on broadcasters. Like, it's certainly within the rights of Sinclair and Nexstar not to air programming that they don't think fits with what their constituents in their markets want to see or believe they should see. That is fine. They have that right. But ultimately, that makes the long-term viability of shows like Kimmel or content like Kimmel harder to put on national television, meaning on the ABC network. And it just pushes more and more content, not even just to cable television, but it probably pushes more and more content to streaming. That is not a good thing for broadcast television. That is not a good thing for Sinclair and Nexstar long term. And so the more you water down linear broadcast TV, I think ultimately that is not a good thing for these broadcast TV stations as you look out over the next 4 or 5 years.
And so does that mean from an investing perspective, is that another reason to not look at those broadcast stocks and to maybe focus your attention on streaming?
I mean, look, you already have the headwinds of cord cutting that aren't going away and the shift of advertising over to streaming. Look, the reason investors have gotten excited about these station groups is consolidation. You have a regulatory body, the FCC, and Chairman Carr has been very vocal that these assets need to be made stronger. They can't suffer the problems that the newspaper industry suffered by not being able to consolidate soon enough. So he is certainly trying to clear the path for consolidation, and that will help in the short term. There's no doubt greater scale, cost cutting will meaningfully help these broadcasters in the short term. But look, long term, viewership is moving away from linear TV. Sports, is the only thing really keeping linear TV alive at this point. It is not local news. I'm sorry for all those newscasters. It is sports, and it's specifically the NFL. And the more the NFL shifts content off of linear television, broadcast TV, to cable and streaming, that is the ultimate long-term problem facing broadcasters. They've already lost Thursday Night Football to Amazon. If they were to lose anything else, whether it be Sunday night or Sunday afternoon to streaming, that would be a huge problem for the broadcast television industry. And my guess is over the next 3 or 4 years, you start to see those fears become reality.
So we talk about consolidation within that business, but we also have to talk about consolidation more broadly in media, right? And I want to bring up with you a comment that came from John Landgraf, the head of FX Networks. He sort of coined the phrase peak TV, right? Back in, 2017 or something. And he said at a conference this week that it is inevitable that more media companies combine. He said, quote, "We have an industry that from a structural standpoint requires some consolidation. We can't have as many streaming services, certainly not global streaming services. And some of the great legacy majors in the United States don't really have enough scale." I think this is something that people in the industry and who watch the industry sort of take as a given. But the question is,
Hulu's gone, right? Like
so,
Hulu won't exist in a year.
So what is
Hulu's
this
going to just be a part of
like?
Disney Plus. Yeah, look, they're going to start shutting down services. So Hulu will be folded into Disney Plus. There'll be no separate Hulu app next year. It'll just be content within Disney Plus. My guess is there'll be one price point and you just get both next year. I think Disney's raising price this week to sort of facilitate that integration next year. You've got Paramount, at least reportedly, if you listen to the Wall Street Journal or others, reportedly looking to make a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery to collapse HBO Max and Paramount Plus into one service. Can Peacock even exist in a world of those giants and what happens? Look, consolidation there'll always be niche players. Whether you've got things like Stars and Shudder. I mean, there's lots of smaller streaming services out there. There's a faith-based one, Wonder Project, actually launching in a couple of weeks. Like, there are plenty of streaming services that will have niche audiences. But if you're talking about large scale, like the quote unquote winners, Julie, my guess is there's going to be three of them. Like, the internet's usually pretty, it's usually winner take most. And I think certainly those two would be Netflix and YouTube, very different content focuses. What's left for everyone else, whether that be Amazon, Disney, or a combined Paramount, Warner Brothers, we'll see. It is not easy out there. And I agree with John Landgraf. There needs to be consolidation or people just cry uncle and give up.
Okay, so it's not easy out there. I got to ask you about the Ellisons, right? David and Larry getting into this business in a more decided fashion with the purchase of Paramount, maybe the purchase of Warner Brothers. Like, why would you want to be in this business if it is such a hard time? Like, is there a real opportunity here, or is this ego? What do you think is going on?
Well, I think you have to step back a little bit. I mean, we've been sort of asking the where's the beef question. In this case, where's the money? Because the Ellisons, it looks like the Ellisons didn't take Paramount private when they could have, right? I mean, look at Larry's fortune. If he wanted to take Paramount private, he could have taken Paramount fully private for another $5 billion. But he maxed out at spending $6 as part of the $8 billion Paramount takeover. Now the story is they're going to spend $60-70 billion, upwards of 80% of that in cash. So we're talking $45-50 billion cash check. I don't believe Larry Ellison is preparing to write a $40 or $50 billion cash check. I don't believe he's going to, margin loan, a quarter to a third of his Oracle position to buy Warner Brothers and HBO. I think that just doesn't make logical sense to your point. I think the reality is we've all gotten a little ahead of ourselves. I don't think there's an imminent bid coming from Paramount for Warner Brothers. I think there's real interest in buying it, and certainly interest in buying it before it breaks up. But that may or may not be possible. It may not be possible to raise enough cash, especially if the Ellisons aren't financing this. And more of our sources indicate the Ellisons are not putting up $40-50 billion of cash. And so I think there's a missing cash component here that no one has explained. Where is this cash coming from if they're actually going to make this reported bid?
And as you know, Larry Ellison is a little busy otherwise, right?
He just bought a piece of TikTok.
Yes, he just bought a piece of TikTok, although the TikTok is smaller than we thought it would be here in the U.S. There's a report today that that $14 billion valuation that we just learned about is because half of the profit looks like it's going to be sent back to ByteDance, the parent company. What do you think about this, Rich?
Look, there was a lot of hope posturing, Mark Zuckerberg, Evan Spiegel, like there was aggressive push to try to get TikTok banned or at least TikTok severely weakened. The goal was, hey, force consumers to have an algorithm that was disconnected from the existing algorithm, or build a new algorithm, lose all of your content. Like, you'd only be able to watch US content, not global content. Well, there is no sale of TikTok US. This is a joint venture. They're basically joint venturing the US piece. They're bringing in new investors. The current algorithm is being ported into the US and updated in the US. But, Julie, if you open up TikTok on your phone today, I'm not sure if you're a user, but if you use TikTok today, it's going to look exactly like that tomorrow when this deal closes, or in 120 days when this deal closes. Like, all of your content's going to be there. Your algorithm is going to know you like it knew you yesterday. And, yes, there'll be some new investors. Obviously, the profit streams will change because there's going to be a licensing of the algorithm. But, in many ways, this is the status quo, which is great for TikTok, great for ByteDance, obviously means that sort of the hopes that Meta, Snapchat, and Google might have had, or even X might have had, that a competitor was going to go away or be hampered, just isn't going to happen.
I'm not on TikTok, Rich, but I believe you that nothing will change. Thank you so much. It is fantastic to see you. Don't be a stranger.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Big fan of Yahoo.